that's why, you know, we're very much involved with post-traumatic stress too, because we believe it's a key example to teach the implications of how stress accumulates. And post-traumatic stress means stress that comes after. You know, a couple years ago we were invited to go to Fort Carson, and Fort Carson's the #1 Army base in the world for PTSD, but unfortunately for PTSD that goes bad. You know, there's a lot of articles in New York Times and Frontline just how not working. And when we're there, the typical example was a young person, maybe the first time they went over to Iraq or Afghanistan, and they came back and they noticed, you know, they just didn't feel the same. They feel like some part of them is still over there and they don't seem to fit in. So they have more anxiety, they may have more neck pain, they may have more back pain, they notice they don't sleep. But maybe that time they get over it, right? But by the second time, or they may have a particular episode of high stress, you know, a guilt thing or survival thing. Something that happens that is so important to be observed, because we say it makes a perfect example to understand the disease phenomenon and the ACE study, and that is they become numb. This is what happens. You become numb. The brain-body connection goes numb because you need to survive. So what does numb look like? They go to have they'll hug their children, they feel nothing. There's no joy. You can imagine going to hold your children and you feel nothing. Imagine go hear your wife or your husband, you feel nothing. Number two, an exaggerated sense, which is called hypervigilance, of fear. And so many of these guys say, Dr. Canali, you know, I heard about you, can you help me? So what's the problem? I can't drive. What do you mean you can't drive? So of course you look at their legs and maybe they have a prosthetic. No, it's not that. I can't drive. Why can't you drive? And they usually put their head down with shame or embarrassment, because I'm going so slow. Whoa. And why are you going so slow? And they hesitate, and I go so slow, and all these cars back up at me, and they're yelling at me and screaming me and flipping all kinds of signs at me, and literally people try to run me off the road, and I get more anxiety with it. Well, why are you looking for? And they'll say, I'm looking for stones. And you have to think for a minute, and then it dawns on you, stones was the way they learned to survive, because when you have an explosive device put by the road, you don't have weather and rain, but you have wind, and a lot of times the wind will blow a little bit of the dirt, and there's a pile of stones. And by identifying those, now, it makes no sense that in rural Connecticut or in Colorado Springs that there's ever going to be a bomb there. But in their brain, they know they're being hijacked by that fear. And this is what happens with anxiety in general. People are filled with fear, and they don't know that they have an innate ability to let go of it. And you know, it's been oversimplified with the fight or flight, and it's and freeze, and trying to identify with animals. That's I mean, it's basic. It's an oversimplified model. It's more involved with that. But the key is, if you know how this system works, right? This is the stress response. This will get your heart rate up. This one will slow it down. This one will make you sweat. This one will not make you sweat. This one will cool you down. This one will stop digestion. So you can understand, if the sympathetic is going off and you put food in your stomach, you're going to cause gastritis or inflammation. This is going to disturb sleep. This is going to feel fear. But the thing about unified therapy is we found the ability, by using different stimulations, also using cognitive and talk therapies. We don't want to throw all that out the door, right? That a human being, could develop a skill. They could develop the brain, just like a human being who, say, never ran 5 miles in their life, ends up being a very good at a triathlon, right? Now, does that happen overnight? No. Do they learn to negotiate uncomfortable sensations and feelings? You bet you, right? Is the race ever comfortable? No. But they learned that along the race, there's going to be certain stimuli that doesn't feel good. My legs start to cramp up, and you know what? I slow down my pace. I get my breathing starts to get a little fast, and I get a cramp. I slow down.
It's self-regulating.
Self-regulating. And so what happens is, if you give this thing the right support, brain, body, and you get a person, very, very big thing that I say was missing from 99% of most therapies, is the ability to recognize a human being dissociating or checking out from the process. Because if you're not present, That's where the mindfulness stuff is great.
Yeah.
If you're not present, you can't truly regulate the brain. And so just let me finish. So this re-regulates, it balances, and energy comes out, and when the energy comes out, which it will come out as hot or cold. So we'll tell somebody, you more than likely you're going to have a temperature change. We'll give you a blanket. If you get cold, we'll take the blanket off. If you get cold, we'll give you a blanket, excuse me. If it gets hot, we'll take it off. But they have to know what's going to happen. Number two, and you have to talk to them, and you have to go save. And there's a lot of cathartic things that happen through the years. You know, I just, this weekend I had listened to Leonard Orr, and you know, in those days, and the breathing and all this trauma thing, and it was way too much, and they really didn't have the tools to understand what was really going on in a human being, and they made all these assumptions that it was your birth trauma or this and that. It just didn't pan out. But there was something about using breath as a tool to regulate autonomic. That's a good one.
Okay.
That's a good one.
So
That's
use
unified.
breath.
So understanding, there's one of the tools.
One of
So
the
can we
tools,
use breath?
Okay.
Can we use movement? Can we use sensory things?
Okay.
Can we
Verbal
train people to recognize the signs of trauma and also to recognize dissociation? But the most fascinating thing is this automatic reflex will start by itself. Once it starts going, you don't have to do anything about it, right? Other than keep the person calm, let the person keep themselves calm by not adding more fear to already fear comes up automatically, or sadness or anger, and not feed it anymore. And then the brain realizes, you know what, this isn't happening now. These feelings are coming from some other place. I'm not in danger. I'm not being threatened. I don't have to engage survival. And then you get dissipation. When this dissipates, it shifts from this catabolic state, which actually breaks down the body and breaks down protein, to an anabolic state, which is all about repair.